Hey there friends, welcome to the video. I hope you are doing really good today. And in this video, I'm going to talk about having DPDR symptoms 24 hours a day. What can you do about it and why actually are they happening 24 hours a day? And for those of you that are new to my channel, welcome. My name is Dan and I help people recover from DPDR with my coaching, and for all my subscribers, welcome back. There are lots and lots of symptoms that come with DPDR and anxiety, and in fact it's a massive list that it's just too long to talk about in one video. So I'm going to be talking about all symptoms in general here. So no matter what you're experiencing, this is gonna sort of fall into what you're going through right now. And the thing with symptoms, right, is that sometimes they come and they go. Sometimes they're stronger or they're weaker. Sometimes they morph or change. And sometimes actually symptoms will go completely, but then new symptoms will come along. And one of the things I notice with people, which I help with my coaching, is that one of the most annoying things that you find is when the symptoms are there 24/7. So you might have experienced this where you wake up and then you check if the symptoms are there, and of course you find them, and then boom, they're just there with you for the rest of the day. And it may be true that some parts during the day where you're busy doing stuff, you might sort of forget about them. Or if something bad is happening to you, like a stressful event or something which makes you nervous, they might actually come on stronger. But it doesn't seem to matter. No matter what you do, they're always there in some level of strength or not. So it could be 100% and you're totally freaking out, or it could be down at 10% and it's not really bothering you. But in a way, it is really bothering you a little bit because it's still there in the back of your mind. And in the back of your mind, maybe you're a little bit frustrated, you're a little bit sad, you're a little bit annoyed because you're just like, oh goodness me, like I can cope, I can get on with my life, I can see friends, I can have a job, I can just live a life. But the symptoms are just there, and I get it. I've had it, and it is really annoying, and it is really frustrating. So let's get into what is actually going on here and what you can do about it. So first of all, what's going on? Well, basically you're stressed, you're anxious, and prolonged stress and anxiety comes with a whole load of symptoms. So that is why the symptoms are there. And whether they're there 24 hours or not doesn't really make any difference when it does actually come to recovery, because the way to recovery is pretty much the same if you have them there 24 hours or not. But the reason that they might be there 24 hours is because basically your brain feels threatened 24 hours a day. And whether you know what it is that's threatening you or you're not exactly sure, your subconscious and your brain, which is sort of almost gotten used to this, and it's gotten really good practice at being scared. Everything that you see and do and touch and taste and smell and whatever, everything that's coming into your brain, part of it is making you scared or anxious. And if you're scared or anxious all the time, then of course you are going to experience symptoms all the time. And the thing is, which I just recently talked about in a recent video too, is that even if you've been having good days for a whole week and everything's great and the symptoms are still there 24/7, and you're like, oh, why are they still here? Like I'm literally happy right now. I literally went out with my friends and or you did whatever it was that you did. You're just getting on with life, but the symptoms are still there. And it's just like, oh, what have I got to do just to get rid of this? Part of the reason they're still there as well is because of that exact saying. What have I got to do to get rid of this? Really, you don't have to do anything apart from all the sort of recovery things. Once you're doing those and you get into the right mindsets and have the right habits and look at it differently and all these other type of things that are really important when it comes to recovery, part of your frustration of not getting better is contributing to them getting there. Because if you get frustrated or you get angry, then your mind will see that as something wrong and something bad, and it doesn't like things that are bad. So of course it's going to protect you, and therefore the symptoms are still going to be there. So one really important thing when it comes to recovery is to really do your best to not focus on your symptoms and to not let the level of intensity of your symptoms dictate whether you're actually making progress or not. So with recovery, it's not linear. So what I mean by that is that it's not just a consistent getting better, 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 better. You might get better, consistently for a week, and then something happens, and then you drop back down again. And then another 2 weeks, and then you drop back down again. It just sort of goes like that. But each time you drop back down, you're dropping back down a little higher, so you don't have to climb as far as you were before. And if you measure your progress on how your symptoms are going, then you're using the wrong metric. What you really need to do is you need to measure how you're reacting to the symptoms. And if every time when you still feel the symptoms there, or if they're getting stronger, if every time your reaction to that is, oh, I just wish they'd go away, then you're not actually progressing, because your reaction is still exactly the same. And that's why the symptoms are still the same. But if you react differently, if you're like, oh, I'm having heart palpitations, or I'm feeling really nervous and anxious, or I'm just sort of shaking, or I'm sweating, if your reaction to that is, like, oh, it's okay, it's just anxiety, I'm going to get through this, everything's going to be okay. If your reaction goes to a more proactive thing rather than a negative thing, then that's how you measure your progress. If you're reacting better every time that this happens, then that is making progress. And as a byproduct, eventually the symptoms are just going to go away anyway. And so even if your symptoms are 24 hours a day, you can still look at it as your reaction. Maybe you're busy at work and you're in the zone and you're doing something. You don't even necessarily notice your symptoms. But then after that, you have a break, and then you notice, oh, that's right, I've got DPDR and I feel spaced out, and oh yeah, this sucks. Well, how was your reaction to that? If that was your reaction, and if that's how you've reacted for the past month or 2 months or however long, then that's not actually progress. But if your reaction is something more constructive, and it's more congruent with recovery and sort of going down that path rather than the frustration and the wishing path, if it's going down the proactive path of actually taking control and being accountable and responsible for your recovery, then that's great. Even if the symptoms are still there, it doesn't matter. You can say to yourself, oh, good, I reacted well, and that's a really good thing. And the thing is that when you are reacting well, you're teaching your brain again and again and again, and your brain is learning that it doesn't matter. Everything will be okay eventually. Like, these symptoms aren't actually hurting me. They're not going to be here forever. And soon, your brain is going to start to actually believe that. It's not a case of fake it till you make it, but it's a case of, doing the right things until you make it. So I'm not saying that if you're sitting there crying and just wishing that you could just get better, I'm not expecting you to go, oh, but it's okay because I'm reacting okay. Like, if you're feeling bad, that's okay. It's okay to feel bad. Like, we all have moments like that. And you can just look at it as, more of perhaps a realistic way rather than a negative way of like, all right, today's just been one of those days. I've just had a bad day today. Everybody has a bad day, whether you're going through DPDR or not. So just go easy on yourself. Okay, I've had an awful day and I feel like crap, and that's just the situation right now. Not a whole lot I can do about it, so I'm just going to go and read a book or do whatever it is, and then, tomorrow I'm just going to sort of get back on the horse, so to speak. So in those instances, it's okay. But if it's just a normal day-to-day thing where you're in the habit of constantly checking in, or constantly getting frustrated, or even wishing that it would go, or getting worried that it's not going to go, or going the symptoms are a little bit better or they're a little bit worse, or whatever it is, the reason why it's important to focus on your reaction is because your reaction is something that you have 100% control over. Now, what I mean by that is that, let's say you get really angry. You don't necessarily have control over that. That's just an emotion which happens. We don't really have control over our emotions in that regard. But it's what you do after that. That's what you have control over. And if you want to scream into a pillow or punch a pillow, or I don't know, like, or meditate, or whatever it is, that's your reaction to it. So the great thing about even if you have the symptoms 24/7. And the great thing about judging your progress by how you actually react to it is because you have control over this. You don't have control over your symptoms. So if you're trying to measure something by something that you have absolutely no control over, then how do you think that's going to make you feel? It's going to make you feel frustrated and angry and annoyed and all the other negative things which aren't really constructive at all. So my friends, what I really encourage you to do is when you are experiencing something and you're perhaps getting a bit flustered or upset or whatever negative thing is going through, see how you actually react to that. Just be curious, like, okay, I'm really angry. Okay, I'm really angry right now. Like, that in itself is a reaction. Your reaction to being angry is sitting there going, okay, I'm noticing that I'm angry. But if your reaction to being angry is just to immediately shout, then that's your reaction. If your reaction to being angry is just to stand there and, just like clench your fists and clench your jaw, then that's your reaction to being angry. And we have control over our reaction, and that's how you can measure progress. So even if you do have symptoms 24/7, really, in a way, it doesn't matter because the path to recovery is the same. And slowly what you're going to find is once you start reacting better and reacting in the right way, then the symptoms are just going to naturally start to dissipate because you're not adding all that extra pressure on yourself and you're not giving your brain all this extra pressure of things are wrong, so it doesn't have to keep protecting itself. And so my friends, I hope this video has helped. And if you do have any questions or comments, then please leave them in the comments, and I do read them all, and I try to respond to as many as I can. And until next time, I'll see you all in the next video. Bye.